Hey guys, I'm Jessica Welman, back for another awesome episode of PlayUSA to Z, but it's a little different. And we are calling this Covering the Playground. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the launch of Barstool, the latest. There's always sports betting teams and sports betting books making partnerships, so we'll talk about those. And we've got the numbers in from last month, and they're pretty ridiculous. So here to tell you more, I've got a trio of awesome panelists. I've got from Play New Jersey, Pete Amato.
What's going on?
From Play Pennsylvania, Valerie Cross. And our Play Indiana writer, Joe Buzel.
Bears are 3-0. Play Illinois.
Yeah, you're doing much better. We have two people on this stream whose teams tied this week.
Yeah, so. The Eagles. We won't talk about the Eagles.
Yeah. Not important.
Until they get a win, at least. I mean,
I'm a Bengals fan. I'll take a tie. All right. We are in the heart of football season, as we all know. But really, we're also in the heart of sports betting launch season because sports books in new markets especially are super excited to get in and get customers around the NFL. Now, Val, your state had arguably one of the bigger launches with the most fanfare of the past, several months with the launch of Barstool Sportsbooks. They say it was a big success. How do you think that launch went in your state?
Yeah, a lot of the Barstool Sportsbook launch, a lot of fanfare, obviously, with Dave Portnoy at the helm. So, a lot of the hype was about how many downloads they had, which, is part of the story, obviously. They had 180,000 downloads on iOS, which sounds like a lot, but only 20% of that total, so about 30,000, actually happened in Pennsylvania where the app launched. So those are the only people that can actually bet on the app. So, that's part of the story. They also had 24,000 registrations, 12,000 first-time depositors, average deposit $243. So these are pretty good numbers. And then they also had 11 million in handle for the first 4 days. So, keep in mind, this was NFL week 2. There was a lot of betting options going on. And of course it was a weekend, so NFL Sunday, full college football slate, also Monday Night Football. So, but looking at the comps, Fanduel had in August, so no NFL, but Pennsylvania's best month ever. August, they had 4.7 million in handle per day, so that's like about 18.7 million for like a 4-day average in August. So still on pace to beat Barstool. And then DraftKings is typically the number 2 in Pennsylvania. So they had in August about 2.8 million a day. So that's 11.2 million for 4 days. So that's pretty, yeah. So basically, Barstool's right on track to kind of compete for second in market share is basically what that tells us. The next 5 operators generally have around 700,000 on average daily. So that's about 2.8 million for 4 days. So based on that, we'd expect Barstool to probably fall short of Fanduel. But still compete. So, basically the early numbers are good. They also are doing a pretty different strategy as far as promotions go. In August, Fanduel and DraftKings spent over 3.5 million. Yeah. In promotional credits. So don't expect that kind of, marketing from Barstool. They're basically trying to do it in-house, just marketing to their followers. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I saw one of their promos was like, you get a sweatshirt. And I was like, I would take free play over a sweatshirt, but I'm not a stoolie. And maybe that's what they're excited about.
Yeah, and that promo, the overs club, the end of that first promo, you had to put $100 on the over, and the over did come in. So, that's probably going to cut into the revenue a little bit for the first month.
Sweatshirts for everyone. Like, that's... Well, and I think another point of context of this, right, is how long has Fanduel been in Pennsylvania? They have had a substantial head start, right?
Yeah, so Fanduel and DraftKings were, both some of the early ones in Pennsylvania. So, yeah, Barstool's definitely getting a late entry, but to be able to compete right away is pretty great. So.
And, it is a bit apples to oranges, but Joe, in Illinois, you have some numbers from a state that in just really the past 2 months has started doing online sports betting. What have we seen there, and how does it compare to DraftKings?
Sure. So there have been 230,000 accounts created, I guess, and that was as of mid-September at the Illinois Gaming Board meeting that was reported. That's been, it's kind of hard to keep track here because it's so much flip-flopping with the in-person registration requirement versus mobile. I think that's, by my rough calculations, it's about a month and a half of registrations. But I guess the number I'm focused on as it pertains to Barstool is, so Bet Rivers, or I guess I'll zoom out. Illinois recorded a $51.4 million handle in July. And that was in an environment where Bet Rivers was the only online sportsbook. Mobile registration was allowed at this time, but again, it was one sportsbook. Baseball was happening for about a week. I think that started on July 24th. But before that, golf was the most popular sport in most markets, but in Illinois, you couldn't really bet on it here for, it's a whole nother can of worms. But I guess my point is, so if you extrapolate that out, that's about $1.7-ish million a day in terms of handle for Bet Rivers in July in Illinois. Barstool, from that 4-day launch period, was about 2.7-ish. Again, I'm not a math major, but that was something close to that. So I guess, like you said, it is apples to oranges. I think the Barstool start in Pennsylvania is promising, also not super overwhelming based on my state, and that Bet Rivers in a pretty tough environment did about $1.7 million per day of handle when there was not a whole lot going on sport-wise.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a point too of this is we're saying like average per day. I think we all know the weekend, the handle's much different than a Tuesday. Right. Like that's day to day going to be a little bit different. Pete, you're in New Jersey. You can see over the river where Barstool is allowed. Do you know when Barstool is going to be coming your way? Any updates on that?
Surprisingly, there's no official indication of when they'll launch in Jersey. The only thing we really have going on September 24th, there was a soft opening for the retail sportsbook at Freehold, and Freehold is operated by Penn National. So basically, if and when they do decide to go for it, that would most likely be like their direct path to launching in New Jersey. So we just got to keep an ear out. But surprisingly, yeah, Jersey's usually the first to jump out at things. But I guess we just got to keep listening to see what happens in the news.
Gotcha. For those who don't know, Penn National is the casino company that bought a controlling share of Barstool Sportsbooks. They're who powers it, essentially. Like, you see Portnoy, he's not the guy like back there setting the lines. He's just kind of the face of this company, that the gaming company is actually who's running the sportsbook.
Yeah.
Joe, I know you did a story on when Barstool might come to Illinois. Do we have any updates there?
Yeah, it's tough to say definitively, as that's sort of a blanket statement on anything with Illinois. They have market access and they can avoid the 18-month penalty box here because of that Penn deal. Penn owns Hollywood Casino Aurora and Joliet here, and some of the Barstool personalities. So that retail sportsbook is open, or both of those are in Aurora and Joliet. It's not officially branded a Barstool Sportsbook yet, but all of their Barstool Chicago accounts and most of their personalities were saying, go bet at Hollywood Casino Aurora. So it's pretty obvious where their pathway is into the market. I think, it depends on two things. When Barstool's ready, like I'm surprised it's not, in New Jersey yet, as Pete said, or, various other states. Maybe that's coming soon. But right now, October 17th is the big looming deadline here, because that is when the mobile registration deadline could end. We don't know. It could extend another month. COVID's actually looking better here. And I guess it's a part of my job to track positivity rates. And it actually is in the region that was bad before, which I think is the reason why it got extended last time, is looking better now. So not rooting for COVID, but we'll see. But I guess that's a long-winded way of saying not sure. I think if it's extended a couple more months and Barstool is ready, we could see it by the end of Q4. But if not, I mean, it's tough to say, because mobile registration isn't supposed to be a part of Illinois until September 2021 at the earliest. So if they're not ready until February, let's say, and it's in-person registration, that kind of leaves a lot of them and a lot of other operators in no man's land. So it's really hard to say.
I would go into in-person registration on this. We've talked about it in other PlayUSA to Z episodes. I will just say, go to Play Illinois, where Joe is always on top of this, because the will they, won't they is like worse than Ross and Rachel on Friends. With this, it's always something different. One thing you do know for sure is, because Illinois is a new market, you've got a ton of deals going on right now with teams and sports books, right, Joe?
That's right. So there's two big ones. At the beginning of the month, the Cubs and DraftKings struck a deal, and then later in the month, the Bears and PointsBet, came to an agreement. I think personally that the DraftKings Cubs one is more substantial, because there's going to be an actual physical retail sports book either in or right outside of Wrigley Field. We don't know the exact specifics yet, but betting, kiosks, the whole nine. It's a little different from others. It's, I guess, think the Capital One deal in DC, but I'm not sure if there's any other actual retail sports books in a stadium in Illinois. But that's obviously going to be big, because there's 81 home games for the Cubs every year. Wrigleyville is a highly trafficked area, even when there aren't Cubs games, and I think that made it really attractive for DraftKings. All the 20-somethings hang out at bars around there. And so it was an obvious fit for them. And because their retail sportsbook presence now is in East St. Louis, which is 4.5 hours away from Chicago, I think, they wanted to get their footprint in Chicago. So that made a lot of sense. And then PointsBet and the Bears came to an agreement. And as far as I know, there's not going to be a retail aspect of that. And it wouldn't really make sense, because there's 8 home games a year. And I don't think it would have the same impact as Cubs and Wrigley. But I think PointsBet, this is sort of the latest, bullet point in a trend of them becoming a real player here, because they have the NBC deal, and let's see, the Bears, the White Sox, and the the Bulls, the White Sox, and the Blackhawks all have their games on NBC Sports Chicago. They have this Bears PointsBet official partner deal now, and also they just opened their retail sportsbook at Hawthorne Racecourse, the first racino in Illinois, which is about 10 miles from downtown Chicago, and they'll have 4 OTB locations when it's all said and done. So I think, PointsBet, and that's, DraftKings will have 2, but other than that, no other operator has more than 1 physical location. So PointsBet is clearly making Illinois a priority, and I think this Bears deal is the sort of latest example.
Now, Pete, I know, when the first kind of sports books came into play after the PAPSA repeal, the Meadowlands and New Jersey was kind of the first big near an arena or near a stadium situation we had. But now there's a ton of stuff like that for New Jersey, right?
Yeah, and going back to Meadowlands, DraftKings is actually set to receive a premier brand integration across the MetLife Stadium during Giants home games. They'll be a sponsor. They'll be recognized as a sponsor. That means they have access to official Giants logos and marks. But the big thing everybody's excited about is the virtual sports lounge that they'll be launching. Provides football fans with more of a integrated customer experience. So that's what everybody's talking about right now in New Jersey, as far as stadiums coming together with different sports books. They also have they'll be having a free-to-play pick-'em game for Giants fans at the stadium. The contest will be available on a weekly basis, and so I'm sure as they progress and as they start kind of getting their feet wet, they'll come out with a few more promotions and stuff like that. But they're all about the virtual fan experience right now. And then they kind of kicked off for everybody else. So I'm sure we'll start seeing different integrations of sports books and stadiums starting to pop up, especially in 2021, probably. Yeah.
So, well, in New Jersey too, we'll talk about numbers here more in a minute, but like, what percentage of bets are we at that are on your phone to begin with? That's a market that's kind of used to betting on their telephone, right?
Yeah. The last, I'm not sure the exact number for, but in July, I think there was I think it was like 70% was people using the app in July. So everybody's using the. It's surprising that most people are on their phones. There's not many desktop users on online sports books. It's all about the phone. It's easy for people to use. It's they can also, people that travel out of state to New Jersey. It happens a lot, especially New Yorkers, because there's nothing going in, no sports betting in New York right now. So when people travel out of state, they go to New Jersey and they make up bets on their phone. That happens actually more often than you would think. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
So it's a customer base that, like, a betting lounge with your phone is not that far removed from an actual sports book. And Val, in Pennsylvania, Wells Fargo, I feel like they have like 52 betting lounges, each with a different brand on them, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of partnerships, obviously, sports betting and teams in Pennsylvania. And to answer the online betting question, in Pennsylvania last month, it was 88% of bets were placed online or on the mobile apps. So, yeah, obviously, just expecting people to bet on their phones, but having these spaces like sports betting lounges. So a lot of branding, but not necessarily, kiosks or anything like that. So the Eagles probably for the best, no fans at the stadiums right now, but they partnered with Unibet as their online casino partner last fall. And they just earlier this month made a deal with Fox Bet for their sports betting partner. So they'll have a Fox Bet lounge and production studio at Lincoln Financial. And then the Penguins just announced partnership with Bet Rivers. So again, a lot of advertising and another sports betting lounge at the arena. And the other one in Pennsylvania recently was Caesars, their new sportsbook operator, William Hill, making a deal with ESPN as their odds provider, and then also DraftKings. We're going to see more DraftKings branding on ESPN. So, yeah, just a lot of marketing deals, basically.
Yeah, and I think, a point with a lot of these betting lounges, it is about marketing and just, having a presence there. But one thing I always found kind of interesting about it is there are just kind of the people there for the folks that are a bit technologically challenged to be like, how do I bet on my phone? This is crazy. And these people can help that process. And, Katie Kohler, one of your writers, Valerie, she's always telling me that when she's out and about in PA, people are like, you can bet, but I don't really understand. And I think having those educational type moments in the stadium is another kind of ancillary benefit of these deals. Although I don't know how much help these states need in terms of getting more people, because the numbers that we got for August were a little bit bonkers. And the most bonkers one of all, Pete, was in New Jersey. What happened in New Jersey last month?
Basically, the month of August was already well known for one of the biggest events of all time, that being my birthday, of course. But
no wagering on that.
Yeah, yeah. But I fast forward to a few years, 2020, and August makes history once again. New Jersey becoming the biggest month in U.S. sports betting history, with a handle of $668 million. And this New Jersey sports betting record wasn't just for the state; it was actually for the entire country. So it was
Nevada. Every month in Nevada history,
including Nevada. Every single month in Nevada history, New Jersey destroyed them. And I mean, we knew we would get a pretty big boost because of all the sports just converging. It was like a sports perfect storm, right? So But 668 million was pretty shocking.
Yeah, and comparatively, we saw like COVID, things got fairly small. How rapid was this ascent through the summer?
It was a pretty big increase, especially for while the beaches have been crowded in New Jersey. Obviously, the casinos are not so much. Right now, it's like a 25% capacity. New Jersey online casinos continue to one up themselves every month. So, say every month they break their record as far as New Jersey online casino revenue. So April, it was about 79.9 million. May was 85.9 million. June, that was about 85. Then July, it chopped to 87.4, and now August was 87.7. So they just continue to one up themselves and just continue to give us surprising numbers. We thought they would drop down a little bit when sports came back, but on the contrary, it continues to climb. So what we're seeing is people are actually, as they're betting online, sports betting online, maybe watching the games, then they're pulling up live dealer roulette and hitting that while they're watching the games and betting on teams. So people continue to use the New Jersey online casinos apps that complement the sports books.
Yeah. Val, you and I remember from our poker days, the people who would tab over and play blackjack with their poker winnings.
I think everybody tabs over, right?
Yeah, the tab over market is huge in New Jersey.
I think, especially with all the complimentary sports books and casinos out now. You have Betfair, Fanduel. You have a bunch of them, so they make it easy. They make it easy to spend money. So.
Yeah. Val, your state's another one that has both online casino and sports betting and had a record August. Fill us in on what went on there.
Yeah. So record numbers in Pennsylvania, just like New Jersey. Not quite as big though. 365 million in handle. So that's pretty awesome. It did break the record, but it kind of got the market back on track, basically to where it was heading pre-COVID. So the 3 months leading up to the March downfall, they had over 300 million in handle. So yeah, basically just kind of getting back on track. Revenue was 27.5 million. That compared to 8.1 million in July. So pretty big jump there. Like I said, 88% bets are online. That was pretty much an established trend as well. And Fanduel broke the single operator record for monthly revenue with 8.9 million. And Fanduel also took 45% of all the online bets. DraftKings took 26% of online bets. So definitely the two heavy hitters in Pennsylvania. Like I said before, they also, went pretty crazy on the promotional credits in August. FanDuel 3.6 million, DraftKings 3.5 million. And for Barstool, it's kind of probably going to be a different story. We expect them to be kind of expanding the market versus taking action from established sports books.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Like that it's not necessarily it'll grow the market, not necessarily cannibalize it, is the theory at least. So, Joe, Illinois does not have online casino, but they're trying. And you mentioned a little that you have July numbers. Mm-hmm. What do you kind of see in line for August? Is 300 million, 360 and 668 little out of the realm of possibility, but compared to say like in Indiana that did 130 million, mm-hmm. Is that something you think could possibly be in the future?
Yeah, I do, because I went back and looked at Indiana and Colorado numbers for July compared to Illinois, and so Illinois is about 51.4 million. I think Colorado is around 59, Indiana around 70. Again, Illinois just had one sportsbook live. I think Indiana and Colorado had several. I think double digits in Colorado, maybe. August is a little tough to say just because there was not mobile registration for the first 20 days of that month. So I'm most interested to see September, because that is the month where mobile registration will have been live for the entire time. There are 5 online sports books now. I think William Hill launched on September 15th, which was the last one to do so. So it will have had about 2 weeks to register people. So August, I think it'll top the 100 million mark, but I'm also, it's just, there's so much noise in that month. So I'm focused on September, I think. And I don't think it's going to reach Pennsylvania or New Jersey levels necessarily, but I think it's definitely going to beat Indiana and Colorado just based on what the numbers were in July and based on how much the Illinois landscape has changed since then. So I'm very excited to see the September numbers. And again, I say it's not going to reach Pennsylvania or New Jersey, but I think it's going to be a pretty eye-popping number in September, just based on the sheer amount of sports that have been available, the fact that mobile registration has been allowed the entire month, and that there are 5 sports books to bet on when there was only 1 for the last revenue report. So I think we're going to see some pretty big things in Illinois in September. Whether that lasts past September, it's kind of up to old JB Pritzker, but I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of discussion. When is Colorado going to potentially leapfrog Indiana into third? Seems like Illinois is going to leapfrog both of them and take third before Colorado does that. All right. Speaking of September, we have the NFL. We have the NBA playoffs. We have the NHL playoffs. We have the end of the MLB regular season, and we'll get 1-2 days of playoffs. It's going to be even bigger sports-wise. I'm going to put you guys on the spot because I'm sneaky like that. I want to hear what you think your state's handle will be for September sports betting. I'll give you a minute to mull over. But, we love prognosticating. Pete has his videos where he makes picks on the Eagles. I say you make a pick on the handle.
By the way, Joe, you're welcome for Nick Foles. He's a
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to have Mitch Trubisky in return.
Good trade. I'll go ahead and start.
Okay.
So, Pennsylvania did 365 million in August. As Jess said, a lot more action in September. I'm going to go ahead and say 420 million in handle.
Okay, nice number.
Yeah, thanks. And also considering Barstool, like I said, kind of expecting them to expand the market a little bit, get those stoolies in on the PA betting. A lot of promotions that were going on for the start of NFL. So I would expect handle to be up. Yeah. 420
All
million.
Right. Pete, Joe, you got a number in mind?
I know there's more to bet on, but I don't think it's going to top August. And my reasoning is, I think people were just so excited to bet. Like they just were so excited to bet on the major sports. And I think it just shot up, and especially a lot of them were most likely new players that might take a little break off or go back and forth. So I'm going to say, let's say 610 million.
All right. Joe, what are you thinking?
I feel like mine's the toughest because I
know you don't have anything to ballpark on, but the good news is you can miss and you don't have that much data and you can blame that.
Yeah, well, I hope Old Takes Exposed isn't watching this video, but I will just see. I'll go with 250 million, which I think could be too much or too conservative, honestly. I think you can make the argument for both. It's just they're giving out so much money here. All the sports books are giving out a ton of money. People love betting here. It's a huge state. You've been able to bet on everything the entire month, like I just said. Mobile registration. Yeah, I'll say 250 million, but I can honestly see variance in either direction on that front.
Yeah, I same thing. I mean, you would think a 50%. I mean, a $50 million decrease would be a big deal, but I mean, it's still 610 million. And just like Joe said, they're giving out money for Illinois now. They actually. August was a huge month for promotions, and not just new player promotions, current player promotions, which is big. So I don't know if they're going to necessarily do the same thing in September. I think they kind of made their point, and I think they got the customers they're going to keep, and the new players that don't that want to try different sports books are going to try different sports books. So.
All right. Well, if you want to find out more about some of these offers, find out more about what's going on in these states, we've got PlayNJ.com where Pete resides. There's also some other New Jersey sports betting and casino sites we've got in our network. Valerie is at PlayPennsylvania.com and Joe is at PlayIllinois.com. And as always, PlayUSA, our namesake, is a good place to check out things too. Thank you so much, guys. I talked your ear off a little longer than we expected, but you had so much to say that I couldn't help myself. So
it was fun.
Yeah, great job
Thanks.
on the first episode of Covering the Playground. And we'll be back next month with another one of these. And in the meantime, check back next week for a new episode of Play USA to Z.